Test number 16. White to move. Level 2100 and up. Pause the video here if you want to try to solve it. Here's how this game occurred. Iranian versus Fiddler. Linares 2006. The main imbalance in this position is the battle between White's central pawn majority and Black's queenside pawn majority. Many amateurs are programmed to quake in their boots when they realize their opponent has a queenside majority. Isn't that a big advantage, they ask? It can be, but center pawns tend to be more valuable in the middle game, and in positions where quite a few pieces still remain on the board. And as we can readily see, White center pawns give him a spatial plus. It's nothing huge, but it's something. However, there's another battle going on here too, the battle of the bishops. White has noticed that Black center and kingside pawns are all in light squares. If this were permanent, such a state of affairs would bode well for White's bishop, since the enemy pawns would be potential targets. Thus, White plays to fix the enemy pawns on light squares. Explaining the rating spread. This is all about finding subtle ways to create things that don't yet exist. Very advanced, which explains the rating spread. G4! Exclaim. Excellent. White intends G4, G5, and there's no convenient way to stop it. H6. Other choices. Another choice is D5. Much worse is bishop takes F5. This is about equal. With a very nice endgame for White. With a small but pleasant structural edge, 3-pawn islands to 2, and weaknesses on H7, E6, and a hole on E5. h4, knight a5 was played. The alternative was rook c7. Threatening knight takes d4 check. The immediate h takes g5. Correctly announces that the h file is far more important than the c file. h5 is a real success for white since black's kingside pawns are permanently stuck on light squares. Instead, if h takes g5, alternatively knight a5, knight e5, leads to the same kind of positions that occur in the game. With a position that's still rather uncomfortable for black. Going back to the game, instead of rook c7, knight to a5 was played. Black was hoping that the exchange of all the rooks would ease his defensive chore, but the superiority of the white knight and bishop over their black counterparts, plus the fact that black's pawns have been stuck on light squares, is a guarantee that black still has a lot of suffering to go through. Since black's position is quite passive, white retains the knights, only to offer the trade at the best possible moment, and proceeds to improve the position of his king and gobble up as much central space with his pawns as possible. There's no hurry, and as I've said before, when you have an opponent passively waiting for his fate, take your time and improve your position as much as possible before undertaking any committal action. This isn't to say that black is lost here, but his position is far from easy to defend. f5, question mark. Black cracks. He should have played f6. Suddenly black's position is hopeless. His kingside pawns are still in light squares, but now white has a protected pass pawn and an easy route into black's position via king c3, d4 to c5. Material would have been lost anyway after the king made it to c5. Bishop e8, question mark. This makes it easy for white. Black had to try 37, bishop f3, when a theoretical and complex position is reached that is supposed to be winning. Of course, this kind of thing is far outside the scope of this book. Suffice it to say that white mixes threats against g6 with bishop g8 to h7, with a well-timed e5, e6 advance, and decisive king breakthroughs to gain the full point. Note that all this is possible because black's pawns are on light squares and thus vulnerable to the enemy bishop. The plan initiated with g2, g4, g5 has been a resounding success. "1-0. The end might have been and that's all she wrote.